The Timeless Laws of Seduction. Casanova. Venice. The year is 1725, a city built on water, where shadows dance on canals and secrets pass through candlelit salons like whispered invitations. From this theater of masks and music rose a boy named Giacomo Casanova, frail at birth, fragile in youth, yet destined to master the greatest stage of all, the art of seduction. Not the crude act of conquest, but the refined ability to draw hearts, command attention, and make desire feel inevitable. Casanova was no marble statue of perfection. He was flawed, reckless, often broke, and frequently in trouble. Yet his name outlived dukes and princes. Why? Because he understood the timeless laws of attraction. He wrote them not in ink but in the stories of his life. And each one still applies wherever romance and desire exist. Let us step into those laws, lived by Casanova, tested in fire and velvet, and still alive in every room where two people meet. The law of mystery. In Venice, masks were everywhere. At carnivals, the powerful and the poor mingled without names. Casanova learned something there. Desire dies when everything is revealed too quickly. His early failures taught him this harshly. In one affair, eager and impulsive, he pursued intimacy at once. The mystery dissolved, and so did her interest. He wrote later with regret, "Attraction needs shadow as much as light." He began to pace his revelations. With one woman, he would let wit lead the first evening, sharing humor and curiosity. With another, he would reveal conviction on the second, ambition on the third. The body came later when the mind already leaned forward. Even now, the lesson breathes. In a world where oversharing is a habit, mystery has become rare. The man who does not empty himself in one night holds gravity. Attraction is not about deception, but about timing. Curiosity must be fed slowly, or it starves. The law of presence. Casanova was not the most handsome man in Venice, but he knew how to enter a room. When he walked into a salon, he did not rush his step. He stood with composure, let silence sit, and moved as if the space had been waiting for him. Before he said a word, attention bent his way. He learned in Parisian salons that chatter is cheap. Talkers drown themselves, but presence, posture, stillness, steady eyes, makes words glow when they finally arrive. Women noticed this long before he spoke. They noticed how he handled interruption, how he received attention without scrambling for it. Presence is not loudness. It is gravity. In romance, the man who commands without begging, who steadies the air instead of filling it, becomes magnetic. Casanova mastered that stage long before his voice entered the script. The law of the mirror. Casanova did not seduce by drowning women in flattery. He seduced by reflecting their best selves. Henriette, the traveler he met in Parma, proved this. She was clever, sharp, sovereign in her independence. Instead of reducing her to a conquest, he honored her intelligence. He played cards with her as an equal, traveled as her companion, wrote letters that mirrored her wit back to her. She left him with a note and money, a gesture of independence and affection, and he remembered her as the great love of his life. Why? Because with Henriette, he learned the truth. People do not fall for you. They fall for how they feel about themselves in your presence. Even today, the lesson remains. Attraction is not about making someone smaller with praise. It is about reflecting them so accurately that they feel enlarged. Mirrors seduce more deeply than masks. The law of the quill. Casanova lived in an age of letters, and he used them like architecture. He wrote carefully, avoiding cliches, weaving memories into his words like bricks into walls. He did not flood his lovers with praise. He recognized them. A woman's discipline, her wit, her silence. These were his subjects. His letters lived beyond the moment. Even after affairs ended, correspondences endured, because his words carried respect. One line could remind a woman of how she felt in his company long after he left the city. In attraction, words outlast beauty and wealth. They build bridges memory can cross long after the moment passes. In his time, it was ink and parchment. In ours, it may be messages or calls. But the principle is the same. The man who writes with precision and sincerity leaves a trace stronger than ornament. The law of the gatekeepers. Casanova knew seduction was not only about women, but about the circles they lived in. In Venice, he saved Senator Bragadin from illness, earning his patronage and protection. That single act opened doors into salons and gatherings that no charm alone could breach. In Paris, he learned the same rule. To win over a woman of standing, one had to first win the trust of the hostess, the friend, the confidant. Seduction was never isolated. It was a social geometry. The woman who introduces you becomes part of the seduction, and her faith in you is the bridge you walk. Even now, attraction often flows through gatekeepers, friends, peers, social spaces. Casanova's lesson was simple. Seduce the room, and the woman will already be halfway to you. The law of boldness. In 1755, Venice imprisoned Casanova in the Leads, beneath the lead roof of the Doge's palace. His crimes? Impiety, scandal, too much influence in too many circles. The prison was suffocating, an oven by day, a coffin by night. But Casanova refused to accept the cage. With a fellow prisoner, Father Balbi, he studied routines, pried up boards, cut through ceilings, and in October, they escaped across the roof into the night. The city awoke to gossip brighter than its sunrise. That escape changed his reputation forever. Boldness, once proven, perfumes a man's life. In Seduction, too, boldness separates the unforgettable from the forgettable. Women leaned toward Casanova not only because of his wit, but because danger clung to him like cologne. He was a man who dared, and daring is magnetic. The law of the frame. In London, Casanova met his match in Charpillon, an actress who toyed with him until his desire soured into humiliation. He realized too late he had entered her frame. She dictated tempo, mood, and terms. He had been reduced to a player in her theater. From that lesson came his greatest discipline. In future romances, he staged the moment himself. He arranged music, light, pace. He chose tables that encouraged closeness, pauses that encouraged confessions, settings where sincerity felt safe. Romance, he learned, is theater, and whoever controls the frame controls the story. Even now, attraction bends around the frame. Set the stage with care, with honesty, with timing, and you become the author of how the evening feels. Surrender it, and you become someone else's character. The law of tempo. Casanova rarely clung. He gave attention, then withdrew into his own pursuits. Music, travel, mathematics, curiosity. This created alternation. Approach and retreat, pursuit and independence. Henriette again reveals the law. Their relationship breathed because they allowed distance to sharpen closeness. Letters crossed like tides. Silences gave meaning to reunions. Desire suffocates when crowded. It breathes in tempo. The same law applies now. The man who knows when to pause, when to end the night early, when to let space grow before the next message, keeps attraction alive. Tempo is not cruelty. It is oxygen. The law of the fall. Casanova's life did not end in triumph. He grew old in Bohemia, serving as a librarian to Count Waldstein. The salons were gone, Venice distant, youth behind him. There he wrote his memoirs, not as a conqueror, but as a man confessing. I have loved women to the point of forgetting my dignity, he admitted. I have been foolish, vain, envious. The confession is not weakness. It is depth. Women trusted him not because he pretended to be flawless, but because he admitted his storms. Even his failures seduced, because honesty is rarer than flattery. The fall is inevitable. What matters is whether dignity survives it. In love, the man who admits his scars without self-pity becomes more human, not less. The law of legacy. Casanova died in 1798, far from Venice. But his name endures because he made seduction an art, not a trick. He understood that attraction is not conquest but composition. A mask to spark curiosity, a presence to steady the air, a mirror to reflect, a quill to carry memory, a boldness to stir danger, a frame to shape mood, a tempo to let desire breathe, a fall to show humanity. These are the laws of seduction that outlived him. Not formulas, but patterns in human desire. And they remain today, because seduction is not about the body you have or the wealth you hold. It is about attention, timing, and the art of making someone feel more alive in your presence than in your absence. That was Casanova's genius. That is why his name still whispers through centuries.